Welcome to our first ever fantasy football podcast, and I'm here with my co-host Ron, and we will jump right into it. Starting with our league update. So we had a few injuries this week, including Matthew Stafford with a thumb injury. He is questionable for the game and will go right up to game day with the coach making the final call. They are worried about him gripping the ball. The other injury we have is Kirk Cousins with the ACL. He's out for the rest of the season. Kendrick Bourne, the wide receiver for the New England Patriots, is also out for the season. Is there anything else that I missed?
I think those are it.
Cool. And then we had the trade deadline on Tuesday. It was busy, but definitely not as busy as last year's with a record-breaking 14 trades. Chase Young went to the 49ers for basically a bag of chips, third-round pick. And so that San Francisco front is looking even more lethal. The other trade we had was Montez Sweat to the Bears for a second-round pick. And the final trade that could impact us the most is Joshua Dobbs to the Minnesota Vikings. And that could be very good to have an experienced backup quarterback. Now let's get into our streamer, tight end, and QBs. Let's start with Ron. What is your streamer tight end of the week?
Well, I think my streamer tight end, if he's available, would be Taysom Hill. He's had 3 great weeks. I know he has some injury problems, but they think he'll go ahead and play. He provides a lot of options with the tight end, both in running and receiving, and he's come through the last couple of weeks, so he would be my streamer pickup at tight end.
Cool. My streamer tight end of the week is Jaden Ferguson. Jaden Ferguson has been putting up solid numbers every single week. He's getting solid targets, around averaging about 5 targets a game, and is getting in the end zone every few games. I think especially in a Dallas team that is looking on the upswing, I think he's a must-start this week. Now, what about your streamer QB of the week?
Well, I would go with Sam Howell this week. He's still on most people's waiver list, and he was quarterback one last week, 400 yards and touchdowns all over the place. And so when you look at it, it wasn't just a one-week wonder. He has had 3 top 10s in the last 4 weeks. So he's been coming on quite a bit the last part of last month, and so I think he would be a good one to pick up for a streamer.
Yeah, I totally. Howell has been balling out. But if Howell is not available, I would go with Daniel Jones. It's an interesting pick, but after his first week back since week 5 against a Vegas defense that is a little bit beat up in the secondary, I think that offensive line will play better knowing about what the terrible incident that happened in week 5. I think that Daniel Jones will also rush the ball a little bit, so I think you could get a good game from him, especially against a pretty bad Raiders defense. But now we're going to get into our must-start and must-sits of the week. Ron, let's start with you. What is your must-start for the week?
Well, I think one that I would really go for this week would be Gus Edwards. He has really come on the last 2 weeks. Hasn't done an awful lot prior to that, but he's been over 20 points the last 2 weeks, and they're a strong running-focused offense. When you look at his numbers the last 2 weeks, he's had over 240 yards combined with running and receiving and 3 touchdowns. So if he does anywhere near that, it'll be a great read for him this week. He's going up against a rough Seattle defense, but I think he's a big bruising running back, and I think that would bode well for him. So he would be my must-start.
I totally agree. That's a very good decision there. My must-start of the week is T. Higgins. The Cincinnati Bengals have not been showing much signs of life, but last week they played great against the 49ers defense. I think this week against Buffalo, Jamar Chase, I believe, will take away a lot of the defensive attention, and I think T. Higgins could have a very big game this week. Now, what is your must-sit of the week?
The team that I've been having, I've had quite a few of these players on them, and I keep waiting for them to come out and start producing to their capabilities, and they haven't. What I would definitely feel I need to sit now would be any running back from either Chicago or when you look at what they have done over the last several weeks, whether it's Pierce or Singletary or Johnson or Foreman, they've only had 1 week of over 10 points for any of them in the last 3 or 4 weeks. There's such a split usage, and every week it's a different back. So one of them may come up and score some points, but you'd never know which one. So I really think all 4 of them need to be sat down. Just don't wait until you see somebody really start emerging from team. So any running back from Chicago or Houston.
My must-sit of the week is another running back, Aaron Jones. He's been banged up this whole season and not gotten over 10 points. We're talking PPR here. And there's just no reason to start him. Like, you could pick up and play anyone else on waivers, I would think. Just, he's never gotten more than 10 points, and that Packers team just isn't looking great. So especially this week, I would sit him. But we are recording this podcast about 6-ish hours till Thursday Night Football, so we're going to do a quick Thursday Night Football preview. Of course, you're starting Henry this week. You're definitely starting, I would probably start Harris. You're starting Pickens, and probably Deontay Johnson in flex if you want. If you need a quarterback to plug in and play, I would plug in Will Levis. He's playing great. Also, if Hopkins plays, I would definitely start him. And then if he doesn't play, I think Treylon Burks or even Westbrook-Ikini is also a good play, just because we know that Levis is going to throw that deep ball every now and then. Is there anyone else that you would start from that game, Ron?
No, I don't think so, but Levis is the one I'm really interested to watch play. It's kind of a new one. You haven't seen him all that much. He came into the league with pretty strong credentials in the draft, first-round pick, and people say he's really got an arm. I really want to see him play. Probably the one that interests me most just from watching, and I definitely would put him in unless you had a strong quarterback on your team. He's someone that would be very, very worthwhile watching him this week.
Yeah, I agree. And I think this is actually going to be a pretty good game, too. And, Thursday night games are always fun, and I think that we could get a good one here. But thank you so much for tuning into our fantasy football podcast, and we'll see you next week. Thank you so much for listening.